Welcome to the R7 Christian Marketing Podcast, sponsored by Emma's Good. R7 is an innovative, God-inspiring process that explores personal and professional purpose. R7 analyzes 7 strategies to transform your vision and find direction in your organizational marketing. R7 establishes clarity and guidance for the gift we call life.
This is my destiny.
Welcome back to the R7 Podcast. Oh, man, another awesome guest, my longtime friend and mentor, someone I consolidated with and now and over time. We're just doing life together, man.
Yeah, man.
My awesome friend, Steve Noble. Welcome to the podcast, Steve.
Bro, I was kind of expecting some kind of big nerd alert. Because, by the way, your set looks awesome. Your studio looks great. And I'm pretty picky about that stuff. Obviously not when I'm sitting in my father-in-law's sometimes bedroom when he's with us 3 months out of the year. He's 85 now. But, you know, your castle isn't always your own. But anyway, I think it looks great. But, yeah, I was waiting. Dave and I have known each other for, oh, my goodness. How long, Dave? Has it been 20 years maybe?
Probably 20. I said 15, but it's probably been 20. Honestly.
Yeah, 15, 20 years. Goes all the way back to Harvest Crusade stuff. That was 2007. So it's close to 20 years. And I don't know. I think you called me nerd first.
It came from Star Wars, for sure. It came from Star Wars.
Well, look.
Yeah, see? There's the nerd alert right there.
I am the Senate nerd alert. And that's all about branding and marketing and messaging, right? Because they're like, hey, you're talking to a Star Wars guy. You probably should meet him where he's at, which makes me a Star Wars nerd. And you were sensitive to that, which is some beautiful friendship marketing. Good job there, Davo.
Yeah, so just
great to be with you.
If you're listening out there, every time we call each other, it's nerd alert. What's nerd want today? Yeah, so we've had so much fun over the years, and I'm so thankful for you and your family. And we've got so many stories. The firecracker story, which we won't get into on this podcast.
Firecracker Dave, nerd alert. Firecracker Dave.
So listen, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. I was thinking about as the relaunch of the podcast. You were at the top of my list in terms of, you know, people out there that are just crushing it. I really just, outside of our friendship, which is hard to kind of separate, but like you are, you know, from apologetic standpoint, kicking butt, Noble You, the radio show, like first time I met you with Call to Action, man, like just the room was packed over at the golf course there at the Northridge?
Northridge Country Club.
Northridge Country Club, and you just crushing it. And I said, this is a guy I want to be part of and just do life with, man. And so today I'm just, I wanted to talk to you about the idea that the organization is no longer the hero, the client, the donor, the first-time guest is the hero. The organization is their guide. And so like this is a big, giant shift in the marketing coming from Donald Miller over the years, where we're stop looking at ourselves and we got to really look at who we're talking to and really create a VIP experience. And that to me is not Christian marketing. It's just marketing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you've done so well with that, man. Like, honestly, you just know how to talk to people, you know how to motivate a crowd, you know how to get people involved. And I think it'd be awesome for you just to tell some stories here of how you've done that over the years and how you've been so successful at that.
Yeah. And I would start off by encouraging people, encourage you if you run an organization, if you run a business, if you're a Christian that owns a business, you have a Christian ministry, whatever the case may be. Right out of the gate, Dave, one of the things I've struggled with over the years, not so much anymore, but occasionally, is comparing the size of my organization to other people. And that could be debilitating. And since I'm going to talk almost exclusively from a Christian perspective, God never called Dave Jones to be Steve Noble. And he never called Steve Noble to be Dave Jones. And there are times when we come together and we partner because that's what the body of Christ is supposed to do. But I would just want to encourage anyone listening, you have your place on the wall. If you're a Christian like me and Dave are, then we're on the same wall, but we have different places. And so your role is to be faithful to what God has given you. And then we do what we can to be a part of the increase, but ultimately the increase is up to the Lord, which is why faithfulness is so important. And this topic is so important. Because when I got started, listen, all these things, Dave, whether it was call to action, which just for you listening, call to action existed as a Christian political grassroots activist organization. That was number one. And that was in 2004. But even before that, when I moved here in 97, I moved here to start my own business, which was a contracting company. It was a painting company. So literally, Dave, if I didn't figure out how to get in touch with my audience and meet them where they're at, and then get to know them and understand what they're looking for and how I can serve them, if I didn't focus on them, I couldn't eat. So moving here in 1997, you better learn how to market well and meet people well and serve them well. Or for me, I wasn't going to eat. And, we had a young family and just kept adding more mouths, and we have 4 kids. They're all grown now. But whether it was my house painting company and then call to action, which was how do we get a bunch of Christians not only organized, but to engage the cultural war around us via politics and other things. And then radio, when I had a chance to get on the radio, and I did radio for 15 years, and I did live radio, did about 3,400 radio shows in the Noble U, which is a teaching platform to teach high school age homeschoolers. I was the organization. It's always been that way. And you got to understand who you're trying to partner with, because I couldn't do any of this stuff by myself. I'm not some day trader in cryptocurrency. I have to engage with people around me and get to know them and figure out if there's a partnership there. So from day one, this has been kind of the epicenter of what we're talking about tonight is who are these people? Jesus said, "My sheep hear my voice." So it's like ringing a certain bell, and whether we're talking about a house painting company or a political activist organization, a Christian talk radio show, or a teaching platform to reach high schoolers, you better ring the right bell. Otherwise, your sheep, the people you're trying to reach, will never hear you. And then there's no connection, and you can't get anything done. So I told you this before we hit the record button. This is when I was doing radio, I first syndicated, the radio show got syndicated nationally in 2016. And for the first time, I started radio in 2007. For the first time, I had a mentor. You used that word earlier. And when we first started talking, that you see me as a mentor, which that's very kind of you to say. And I understand what you mean. But the beautiful thing about our friendship, my brother, is that for everything I've taught you, you've taught me as well. Mm-hmm. It's never been a one-way street. It's always been a two-way street.
Yeah.
And to your point of this podcast, that's because we both knew each other well enough that I knew how to serve you. And so when I went into syndication, this guy, Tim Moranville, who had been in radio for probably 30 years, he came into my studio one day and he said, "Hey, Steve, how big's your audience?" And I'm like, "Well, Christian radio, it's harder to peg an audience." And I'm like throwing some numbers out there. And he goes, "Yeah, no, you're wrong. I actually know how big your audience is." And I was like, "You do?" Because that's going to be some really important marketing information if I know how big my audience is. And he's like, "Yeah, your audience is one person." And I was sitting there, I thought, come on, man. I mean, I'm pretty good. There's no way it's only one person. And he goes, "Let me explain myself. You need to do radio every day as if there's only one person listening to you. Yeah. They're sitting in their car. They're sitting at their kitchen table. And you need to find out, Steve, why is that person listening to you every day? Why are you listening to me? And once you understand why they're listening to you, you need to make sure you pay that bill every day. You got to pay that bill every day, which would require me to get to know my, in this case, customer, right? My listener. And then once you get that connection, now I'm trying to figure out, here's why you're here. I'm going to make sure I'm giving you what you're actually looking for. So it's not about the Steve Noble radio show. It's actually about my listener. It's not about me. It's about them, which of course is biblical all day long.
So let's come back to this, but I just want to mention this really quick. I remember when you talk about selling your business, your painting business, for some reason you came to my office the day you gave him your truck. And I remember you telling me, yeah, I had to give him a full tank of gas because that's just what we do.
Right.
Do you remember that?
I remember It's coming back to me. Listen, I'll be 60 in February, so sometimes the computer runs a little slow. I do remember that because I had met with a business consultant. I met this guy who was interested in my business, Mike, like 5, 6, 7 years earlier. And I met him on a Monday at a Panera. I met him at the lawyer's office like 30 days later and sold him my business. But when I met him at Panera, then I met the business consultant, and he's like, Steve, when you're selling your business, you got to figure out what your pool table is. I'm sitting there going, it's a house painting company. What are you talking to me about a pool table? So he tells me the story about a guy who had this big giant house and he needed to sell it, and he got a pretty good offer on it. But with the offer, the guy said, all right, I'll do the deal, but you got to leave the pool table.
Mm.
And the homeowner's like, I can't. No, that's my pool table. I love that pool table. It cost me a lot of money. I want it to go with me. I'm not going to leave the pool table. So the sale didn't go through, and it ended up getting repossessed because he couldn't sell the house. So
oh my gosh.
So he's like, that guy lost the deal on his house over a pool table.
Wow.
So literally, I'm at Panera on a Monday. I come back on that Friday to meet with him to give him a price. And he goes, well, that's more than I was expecting to pay. But how about this? I'll pay you that price, but throw in your truck.
Oh my gosh. Seriously?
I'm like, okay, Lord, thank you for my friend who helped
Just
me.
told you this story about the pool table.
This is 5 days later.
Wow.
And I'm like, pool table. And I said, sure, because I don't want this deal to go south. And then that day when I came to that, I think I was seeing you the day I closed because I had to hand them the keys.
Yeah.
Because my wife met me at the lawyer's office. And then I was thinking, hey man, this is a huge blessing to me that this guy bought my business. It gets to set me free to pursue other things. How do I not show up with a full tank of gas? And especially, I'm witnessing to this guy, right? He's like a cultural Christian. He knows what I am. He's heard me on the radio. He knows all that stuff. So I'm like, this is every detail about this, every way I handle this guy is marketing for the gospel itself. And that's why I was like, how could you possibly show up and give him a tank that's half empty?
But I mean, let's bring it back. Isn't that a great story? You know who your buyer is, you know your audience, and you treat them with a VIP experience. This is the whole like.
You serve them.
I don't know why I remember that. Of all the things, I just remember you saying, isn't that wild?
That's May of 2011, bro.
Okay, so that's when like probably a year before that is when we met.
Pretty
That's
cool.
Crazy.
Know your customer.
That's crazy. Know your customer. Just bear with me for a second. Let me lay down this psychology study. It's called the Good Samaritan study. It was conducted in 1973. Okay, it was a total of 40 seminary students who participated in the experiment. I think they had like 67 students, but it ended up being 40. So the participants were students at Princeton Theological Seminary. Students were asked to prepare and deliver a speech in another building on campus. On the way, they encountered a confederate. Now, a confederate in the psychology space, it's really just somebody who's an actor, it's part of the research team, but pretends to be a genuine participant. So the people in the study don't know that this is a plant, okay? So there's a confederate. So what happened is the students were asked to prepare and deliver a speech in another building on the campus, okay? And so what was measured, the variables were the degree of hurry. Students were randomly assigned to high, intermediate, or low hurry conditions to see if being rushed affected their behavior. The topic of the speech, some students were assigned, this is awesome. Some students were assigned to speak about the Good Samaritan parable. So we'll talk about that in a second to get everybody up to speed if they don't know what the Good Samaritan parable is, while others had a different topic. What they found was hurry was the most significant factor. Students who were in a high hurry condition helped only 10% of the time, whereas those in a low hurry condition helped over 63% of the time. The topic of the speech was not significant, although I kind of feel like it is significant when you're talking about seminary students, and it's a Good Samaritan speech. But they tested different speech of what they were going to do. So students were assigned to speak about the Good Samaritan parable. did not make them more or less likely to help than those who are not discussing the parable. Personal characteristics were less important. The experiment suggested that situational pressures, like being late, were stronger determinant of helping behavior than the participants' personal beliefs or religious training. Steve,
Yeah,
what in the
you're
world's
giving a
going on here?
speech on the Good Samaritan, which is a story in the Bible about taking the time to stop and help somebody that's hurting. But I'm in a hurry to give my speech about helping people. Then I see this guy in an alley who needs help, but I don't have time to help him
I
because
don't have
gotta go
time
give
to
a
help
speech
him.
about helping people. Right, because I think
Oh my gosh.
I think directly to our topic. When in these three organizations, my house painting company, Call to Action, then the Steve Noble radio show, and now Noble U. It's so easy, Dave, to focus on, okay, I got to figure out how to get these people to me,
Yes.
as opposed to how do I get to these people? If I'm going to ask you to turn your teenager over to me for 33 weeks, what is it that you're looking for? What are you hoping for? What do you desire for your teenage son or your daughter? And I got to get on your side of the table. Oftentimes,
Yes.
I'm trying to get you on my side of the table. I get on your side of the table and listen and find out here's what you want for your daughter or your son at 15 or 16 years of age, so that I can come to you and bless you and serve you. And then now you got to get that message. You got to do that first, and then you got to figure out, okay, how do I project that? How do I get that message out into the space? That's why I started by saying, Jesus said, "My sheep hear my voice." Because once you understand and get to know your customer, your audience, your buyer, now you know what kind of bell to ring.
Yes.
But that's not because I figured it out. It's because I got to know you.
Yeah.
That way I'm
So,
serving, which is my role as a Christian. Jesus said, I didn't come to be served, but to serve and give my life as a ransom. It's not about me. It's about you.
yeah, it's about you. So this is like a double whammy. One, you have to stop thinking about yourself because the whole thing is about yourself. And then you have to start thinking about
Look, I got a cup that's got my name on
it. So, to me, this is like, man, God has built us flawed. He has built us with this narcissistic kind of appeal to ourselves. All we want to do is talk about ourselves
Mm-hmm.
when, you know, it's such an interesting. So as a marketer, you have to let that go. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
where that fear, that lust, that anger, pride, have to let that go. Focus in on the consumer, client, first time guest, student, whatever it is, and really take your eyes off yourself and find out what their needs are. I've been at the marketing space now for 25 years, Steve.
Jeez. So you started when you were like 12?
I've owned Emma's Good for 25 years. In 2 weeks, it'll be 25 years.
That's crazy, bro. Congrats.
And yeah, thanks. It's so interesting that I don't know where I picked this up, but if we summarize the whole thing, if I figured this out, if I help enough people get what they want, I'll inherently get what I want.
Oh, may I?
Go for it.
Okay, this is BC Steve's story. BC,
Okay.
before Christ.
Before Christ, Steve.
So I'm in college and I work for this big student house painting company. I worship money. It's the mid 1980s. Gordon Gekko is my god from from Wall Street.
Yep.
And so I'm all about making money. That's all I care about. So I was smart enough to figure this out. So I worked for the student house painting company. I sold paint jobs. I managed 5 crews of college students in the suburbs of Chicago. It's like 25 guys, 5 guys on every job site. And I told the guys at the beginning of the summer, I said, okay, here's the deal. Here's how the summer's going to go. Here's how it's going to work. If you're kicking butt, doing a great job, I'm going to show up. I'm going to bring you Gatorade. I might order you pizza every once in a while. You'll love me. If you're lazy and doing a crappy job for our customers, I show up and you're going to hate me because I'm going to be all over you. But here's the trick is I don't determine any of that. You do.
Yes.
You program me.
Mm.
And then if you want to have a good summer, here's how it works from my side. If I get all of you guys this is the point. If I get all you guys across the finish line, guess what happens to me? I'm probably going to make, again, this was like 1985, 86. I'll probably make $13,000, $14,000, $15,000 this summer, which in today's money is about 30 grand. I made about 30 grand a summer when I was in college in today's money. I said, if I get you across the finish line first, by definition, I'll succeed.
Yes.
But if you don't have a good summer, by definition, I'll fail. And that was BC. That was before Christ.
That was before Christ.
But do you know what that was, Dave? That was self-serving.
Yeah.
So it was my head and my pocketbook. It wasn't my heart.
Yeah.
I used them to get what I want. It was still about me, but it sounded pretty good.
Yeah.
Then you fast forward, and then your heart changes.
Your heart changes. But even then, I mean, it's a biblical principle, like serving others, man. Get in and serve. And here in this study, we have 40 seminary students. Like, what? Like, if they can't do it, what are we doing? Like, you have to, I don't know that you eliminate it. I just think that you're mindful of it.
Yes.
You're mindful of my intentions on myself. I'm mindful of this isn't working. I need to really understand who I'm talking to. And that's where the magic begins. And I think, your career has just been, building brands and standing that up and being successful and, moving from brand to brand, but not because it wasn't successful or wasn't. In my mind, it was because it's another chapter of your life and another calling that has moved you in a different place.
Yeah, God, I'm a big believer in seasons, and God moves you through one season to another season. And you got to have the faith to jump on the next lily pad. He usually only puts one in front of you at a time. So on this side of the lake, I become a Christian. On that side of the lake, I get to heaven. And in between, God provides these lily pads. The scripture would say, good works prepared in advance that you should walk in them. And so when God brings a buyer for the business, and I wasn't trying to sell the house painting company, he just brought somebody. And my wife and I are prayerful about it. And we're like, okay, well, if we sell the business, we're in good shape till the end of the year, and then we're hosed. But this is what we've been praying about for years. And I'm a type A hyperactive person. And I can go make things happen, but my ability to make things happen doesn't mean that's what God wanted to have happen. But in that case, we're like, okay, God clearly set this up. I didn't do it. Radio happened the same way. Teaching happened the same way. None of those were my idea. And you just go, okay, I'm gonna walk by faith, and then God said He'll provide for me no matter what. So I'm just gonna have to trust that and go. And He always does. But I was telling you a story before we went live about this young guy that approached me about fundraising.
Yeah.
Can I tell that story?
Yeah,
cool?
yeah, do it.
So this is a young guy. I knew him because he's one of our son's ages, and we were like in the YMCA, like Indian Guide program for our little kids. So I knew this kid when he was like 8, 9, 10. When he's in his early 20s, I think he was 22 or 23, Mark Bentley here in Raleigh. And he called me up and he said, hey, Steve, I want to meet you at a coffee shop. Hey, can you meet me at the Jubala? And I'm like, yeah, sure, man. Happy to do it. I go over there, Dave, thinking, oh, he wants some advice. He wants some wisdom. He's seeking some godly counsel. That's great. So I get in there and he's explaining to me, hey, I'm doing some consulting now. I'm going to help. I really want to help people learn how to raise money more effectively. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And then he goes, hey, listen, Steve, this is really important. He goes, how much do you raise on a year? And I was like, I don't know, $65,000-$70,000 a year, no big deal. It's a side gig thing. I can't pay myself out of that. I got to make money other ways, blah, blah, blah. And he said, okay, here's what I think the problem is. There's way more people in this city that appreciate you and want to support you. You just don't know them, and you've never asked them. But I'm telling you, you can raise a lot more money than you think you can, because there's people that really know you and trust you and want to support you. It's just that all I was thinking about, Dave, was myself. I wasn't thinking about these people out there. So he goes, here's what I want you to do. I want you to hire me for 12 months, and I'm going to help you turn this around. And I'm like, okay. So after 12 months, we went from 68,000 to like 160,000. And a few years later, I was raising like 250, 270.
Wow.
Then I could afford to pay myself to expand the radio show, all kinds of stuff. So that was me not knowing my audience. That was just me thinking, I'm running around doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
Why aren't people just mailing me checks? Because I was just thinking about me. I wasn't thinking about the people out there that were at this point listening to me on the radio. And so that just completely changed my mindset, that I got to get to know the people that are out there. and get to know why they're listening. Do they listen to the radio show? Why do you listen to me? Why do you value what I do? Which is how I get to know them. And then I know how I can serve them. But if I don't listen to them, how can I know how to serve them? I'm just assuming, well, I've got all this great stuff. No, well, that's all Steve-centered again. It can't be Steve-centered. It's got to be them-centered.
Yeah. Last week we were talking about this identity, and God's got a space for your passion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, all right, well, I want to be just make it up. I want to be we'll use a painter. I want to be a painter, but there's no money in painting. And I think, wait, there's no money in painting for you. You haven't figured out how to look at what you love to do and then communicate that to the world. And this, to me, this is a big one too, is that there's a problem to solve there.
Absolutely.
So whatever that problem is that people are encountering within your passion and your identity, and hopefully it's, your identities with, glorifying the Lord with your talents and your abilities, which is super hard to do. It's a lot of Christian lingo there, but basically, you're loving what you do and you glorify Him. To me, it's pretty simple, but it's finding that problem, that solution, and leveraging that to as many people as you can, and that's where it gets fun.
Yeah, and that's where you got to get to know the people you're trying to reach.
Yeah,
because the live radio show for 11, 12 years, my time slot was 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. Well, guess what? The second biggest radio show in the history of America is on at the same time. That's Sean Hannity. So why would a bunch of conservative Christians tune over to a Christian radio station and a Christian radio show as opposed to listening to the juggernaut that was Sean Hannity?
Right.
You want to know why? Because Sean Hannity doesn't incorporate a biblical worldview into everything he says. So then I'm like, what's my audience looking for?
Yeah.
What are you looking for? Well, I want to hear the news of the day. I want to talk politics. I want to talk about what's going on in the culture. But I can't find anybody that can kind of bury that and wrap it up in and explain it via a biblical worldview. I can't find that. Well, that's what I do.
Yeah.
That's what I do. So, and then and getting to know my audience, they're like, one of the things I really appreciate you doing, Steve, is you always challenge me. You always challenge me to be a little bit more than just a conservative. So like I used to say, I'm an American Christian. I don't say that anymore. My audience heard this ad nauseum because this is what they were thinking. And they needed to hear this because this is where they wanted to get. My audience, 95% of them are serious Christians. I don't want to be an American Christian. I want to be a Christian who lives in America. My Christianity has to come first.
It's a big difference. Yeah.
And they knew that because these are mature Christians who know there's a place for patriotism and love of country, but on top of that is your love of your Lord. And so can't anybody give me the news of the day by put Christ first, put a biblical worldview first? And that's what they were looking for. And once I figured that out, because I listened, then I'm like, oh yeah, we're like a match made in heaven. Now I can serve you 1 hour every day, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And that was always going. That's how you did my radio show enough times. You heard it enough times. That's what I'm doing all the time because I know my audience.
Yeah.
And then I serve them.
And now you've shifted that over to Noble You.
So who's my audience now? Well, it's the parents that would have listened to the show, but it's their kids.
Right.
And why should you sign your kid up for a Noble You class, especially if you're online versus just going to Liberty Online, which is like the Amazon of Christian education.
Yeah.
Well, because I know they want, just like radio audience, parents want their students challenged from a biblical perspective, but talking about things that the culture is talking about: civics, politics, U.S. history, ethics. I'm adding world religions and apologetics in January as a new class. And they want their kids challenged. They want them taught in real time, talking about what's really going on in the world. A textbook can't do that. Liberty Online doesn't have kind of live new content being developed every week. My online students get the class I just taught this week. So my online students this Friday, Dave, we're doing the show on Tuesday, November 4th, 2025. There's huge elections, especially one in New York City with this guy, Mamdani, who's running for mayor. And that's showing up in all my classes this week. And so the online students this Friday, when they get the class video, I'm talking about what's really happening now, man. That's what they want. Relevance and intensity and and somebody that's entertaining. I'm like, if you have a talk radio show host for a teacher, that's going to be pretty entertaining. And that's what they're looking for. Now I just got to figure out, how do I communicate that back to Jesus so that when I ring that bell and that type of sheep, they hear it. They go, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, cool. But that's not about me. That's about them.
That's about them. So I want to put some context to this conversation a little bit. So if you're listening out there, I got a little story I want to share. So back in 1980, when Ronald Reagan was president, there's a thing called impressions that are in the world today. So the amount of impressions the average American we're getting hit with on a daily basis is about 600. Then we have a thing called a bounce rate. So the bounce rate was 30 days. So it's 1980, 600 impressions, bounce rate 30 days. So what the bounce rate means is when President Reagan would give a speech, that speech would resonate with the American people for 30 days. So people would be thinking and talking about the speech for 30 days. Okay. So if we fast forward, I think Steve knows where this is going. If we fast forward to when Obama was being elected, the amount of impressions are about 9,000 per day. So this is, people wanting you to buy. Yeah, 2008, people wanting you to buy their toilet paper, toothpaste, mouthwash, deodorant, cat food, cat litter, everything. And then in fourth quarter, it's even worse. But the bounce rate was 2 hours. Okay. I'm sorry, 2 days. It was 2 days in 2008. Fast forward to Donald Trump. We're up to 17,000 impressions a day. It's predicted this fourth quarter that 21,000 impressions a day will be hitting us like a tsunami. And now the bounce rate, can you guess? It's 1 hour.
30 seconds.
It's 1 hour. Probably less. I looked at it last year, 1 hour. So probably down to minutes. I mean, it's only going faster and more. And so when we look at, like, I've been doing a little test here in the last week or so. I just been putting, whenever I go into a store or something, I just leave my phone in the car. And I'm just watching people. I'm just watching. And man, you'd be surprised. Like, our noses are in our phones everywhere we go. People are oblivious to the surroundings of them. I just went to Salt Lake and back, and I just remember standing like in the getting on the airplane, and like I'm waiting for this person to, like, you have one lane, you're going down trying to get your seats or whatever. Just standing there, and like the person has no clue that I'm behind them, and they're just fiddle farting around with their stuff. And I'm like, dude, come on, wake up, man. I'm right behind you. Move your stuff. There's a whole crowd behind me. I was nice about it. But I was just like, oh my God, we are so oblivious to the world around us. We're not mindful at all of the Good Samaritan, people around us. We're in a hurry. We're watching our phones. The addiction of the dopamine release that's happening with TikTok and Instagram is it's just unreal. I mean, it's going bad fast. And so I'd say all that to say this. This Good Samaritan study is real, man. Like, we're prioritizing hurry over helping. And when it comes to marketing, I recognize this is really, really hard to do, is to focus on somebody else, because the world is trying to distract us every second of the day.
And the terrifying thing and the beautiful thing about this, and thanks for sharing that, what an amazing opportunity we have right now to be one of the few entities walking the planet that does this, that leans in and says, all right, I want to listen to you. I want to plug into you. I want to hear what you're thinking. I want to hear what you're experiencing. I want to know what you're feeling, because we're so distracted. Nobody's paying attention to anybody else. We're looking at ourselves and our phones, and we're checking our likes and our follows and blah, 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 blah. So nobody's got time for anybody else. But what if you, as an organizational leader, all of a sudden make time for individuals that are in your orbit?
Yes.
Because nobody else is doing that. So all of a sudden, when nobody's paying attention to you because they're all paying attention to themselves, what if I just put my phone down and I just pay attention to you? I just lean in and say, hey, I want to get to know you better. I want to know what's important to you. I want to know what kind of values you have. I want to know what really, what you're passionate about, what your needs are, how you're reacting to the world around you. I want to get to know you so that I can serve you better. Because nobody else is listening, because they're all self-obsessed.
They're all self-obsessed.
So what a great opportunity we have in a marketing mindset to go unlike the rest of the world, which is paying attention to nobody but itself. I'm going to pay attention to you. I want to get to know you. I want to listen to you. And then I want to figure out the best way that I can serve you, which is what the Good Samaritan story is all about.
There's another fun story. Coach Bill, you and I know Coach Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And I share this story a lot. It's so cool. So this was like 5 years ago. We went to PF Chang's. And for those of you who don't know, Coach Bill is like one of the winningest wrestling coaches for UNC like ever. And he's raised, I mean, some of his wrestlers now run really big stuff like Milwaukee and Amazon. Anyway, so we were sitting at PF Chang's and I was looking over his shoulder, not paying attention. And it's just him and I across the table from each other. And he's talking and I'm just not there. And he stops me. He says, "Hey, I took time away from my family.
Ooh.
You need to be here and be present. This is cheap focus, Dave. I need quality focus."
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh my God, I just got my butt kicked." And I was like, I'm so sorry, coach. And from then on, man, I've kind of looked at this world that we're in. It's such cheap focus.
Oh man.
Like, are you listening? You know, we have this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Are you listening? You're on your phone. You can't do both. You know, like, yes, I can. I'm multitasking. You ain't listening with any quality here, man. It's cheap focus. We're getting by, and the world is letting us get by with cheap focus.
Pouring gas on the fire.
But I love what you're saying, man. Like, if we're listening to this, if we're truly in the Christian space and we really want to help, put down the phone, be focused on others. You know, if you're a more organizational leader and you truly have an organization that's doing great things, you know, like that people can like donate to your organization, that's awesome, man. Understand their needs and their wants and their problem that you're going to solve and bring that value to the world. It will work.
Listen, we all talk about, hey, do you have your 3-minute elevator speech? So if you have 3 minutes in the elevator, can you explain to people what you're doing? Hey, let me tell you what the Lord has called me to do. He's called me to do this. I'm doing that. I'm doing the other thing. The reality is the Lord has called me to do these things in order to serve you. So instead of talking, here's what the Lord's called me to do. It's about what God's called me to do. What God's called me to do is love my neighbor as myself.
Yes.
What God's called me to do is crucify my flesh. I must decrease. He must increase. What the Lord has really called me to do is die to myself and focus on others. Because if you're going to live for yourself, good luck with that, friend.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be perpetually disappointed.
Yeah.
As I taught all 4 of our kids, if you expect the world to bend itself to your will, good luck.
Good luck.
There's a great book. He was a producer, kind of an assistant for John and Andy Irwin, who have become very successful Christian filmmakers. John's the one that recently did The House of David. Now they're on Amazon, right?
I've watched that series.
They got this huge organization. But Josh, one of their guys that was one of their right-hand guys. Several years ago, I was visiting their offices down in Birmingham, Alabama. And Josh and I both operate in the same way. And this goes to your point of what we're talking about. When I meet people, Dave, when I'm listening, and I'm listening to you, one of the things that's going on, if you're old enough, you'll understand this. I've got this Rolodex going in my head. Or in my smartphone, I've got my contact list going in my head. Because when I'm listening to your story, I'm trying to figure out, who do I know that can help you?
Mm.
Who do I know that could help you reach the goal that it looks like God has called you to do this, that, or the other thing? Who do I know that can come alongside and help you? And Josh and I operate the same way. And so when I was down there, he's like, "Bro, you got to read this book." And I'm like, "Oh, here we go." It's this tiny little parable book. I'm going to say the title slowly because it's very important that you understand. It's called The Go-Giver.
Mm.
We live in a world where we're trained to be a go-getter.
Yeah.
Be a go-getter. Get after it. Go get it. Go name it and claim it. Grab your territory. Whatever. Name your prize. The Go Giver is a parable book about, hey, listen, that's rich guy is telling this younger guy, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna set you up with a series of lunches. I want you to go listen to these stories. And these people became very successful in their own spheres, which isn't necessarily financial. And I want you to pay attention to how they got there. And so one person after another, Dave, in the book, The Go Giver, tells a story about how they saw a need that other people had, and they just were passionate about it, and they worked to fulfill that need. And as they fulfilled that need, all these other things would start happening. So Jesus said, seek my kingdom first, and all the other things will be added to you. So I'm going to try to seek after what people need. I'm going to meet people. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to figure out where you feel like you're trying to get. And I'm going to figure out, I'm thinking in my head, how can I help you? Mm-hmm. And then I've seen this happen in 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, and 10 years, where me just serving somebody, we got to be careful with your heart. I'm not serving you in order to get something.
Okay.
I'm just serving you.
I'm just serving you. Yeah.
And so many times this stuff comes back around later in my life, and this blessing shows up. And because I bothered to serve somebody. I listened, I met them where they're at. I'm going to help you. And God almost invariably brings that stuff back around. And I end up getting blessed later.
Yeah.
That's not what I was after.
Yeah.
I was after you. I was after trying to help you. And then it comes back around. And it's a marketing thing. That's how do you deal with your customer base, your donor base? Man, I want to serve you. And guess what? You serve faithfully, God will take care of the rest.
So I got a story here. I don't know if you can see, but I'm like almost in tears because this brings up a story about you. I had this production studio across town, and so I had to drive 20 minutes one way, 20, 30 minutes one way, depending on traffic. And I don't know what happened, but somebody challenged me to say, listen, man, you have to drive in the car. Pray about who you should call and tell them that God loves you on your way home. And I was like, okay. So I was doing this for, probably a year straight. Every day before I went home, I would just pray, okay, whatever name dropped in my spirit, I would call that person and say, hey, man, don't call me back. Like, I just want to tell you God loves you. Click. And so I've been doing this. You did it to me. You remember this?
Mm-hmm.
You did this to me, man. And it rocked my world. Because I don't know what funk I was in, but you just said, hey, man, like, what's up, nerd? God loves you. Have a nice day. And it meant the world to me. And that's what we're talking about here, just serving. And you don't know how it's going to boomerang, and you don't care. You're not looking for the JE $sign Jesus, right? You're looking for just giving and serving with the right heart.
That's right. That's because that's like back to the social media thing and the impressions and how long stuff sticks. It just doesn't. We live in such a cheap world now.
We do.
And I said this for years. Encouragement is a currency we don't trade in much. We just don't encourage each other because we're so self-focused. I mean, I want you to encourage me, but I don't stop and think about encouraging you. What if you just started encouraging, just reaching out to all of your customers, your client base, your donors, the people you serve, and just try to encourage them, just serve them, because nobody's doing that.
Yeah.
Everybody's focused on me. Nobody's focused on you. And we live that way, which is why, because we're not sowing into each other, you just mentioned a minute ago, what that is sowing and reaping. You're sowing in just by leaving messages for people. And then you reap, and God takes care of the reaping. And the reaping is your friend who just for whatever reason felt led by the Lord to call you and say, hey, man, nerd alert, I love you. God loves you. I hope you're having a great day. I value your friendship.
Yep.
See ya.
See ya.
And in today's world, that's like a pile of gold because nobody does it.
Well, we're just starving. We're just so
starving.
That's why it's a pile of gold, because we're just starving for it.
We're starving.
Like, we don't even know we're starving for it.
Right. You don't even know because we've lost relationships. We've substituted this. We're like Israel in the Old Testament. We're whoring around, looking for something to make me feel good. The dopamine hit. So you go to Facebook hoping that your post got some likes or whatever. Because we don't do what you and I are doing. We just stop and communicate and listen, get to know somebody, and love them well. That's really ultimately what marketing is. How do you love people well? I want to love you well by getting to know you, understand who you are, what you need, and then I'm like, God, help me. Can I help you? Now that I know you, there's some stuff that I do, my radio show, my classes. I think my classes can really help you now that I know who you are. And I'm here to serve you. I'm not here for you to give me a check. I'm here to serve you.
Yeah.
And people know that you can't BS your way around that. Either that's real, it's either authentic or it's not.
So about a year,
people will understand that if you're just BSing them trying to get a check or whatever.
1,000% they will. So about a year ago, I'll post this in the description too. I wrote this blog called "The Power of Thank You." The Power of Thank You. And what the power of thank you was, it was challenging the old system of thank you. You know, you go get a service, you like the service, you give 5 stars. Like that's the old way, you know. Back in the day, we actually got a thank you card, like a written thank you card. But to me now, the power of thank you is putting on a world-class experience, knowing of what your client, donor, first-time guest, you know, is going to go through. Like that's the power of thank you. Let me give you an example. So I was I've been traveling a little bit, you know, last couple years I traveled a lot. And so I checked into a Hilton hotel. And the Hilton was like really nice. And so I get up to the room and I take a shower, I think, because I want to wash off like the airport off me. And so I get in the airport, I get in the bathroom, and I noticed that when you open the door, like the shower was across. So like for me to turn it on, you know how you like you stick it, like you get all wet. And so I was like, okay, whatever. So I closed the door, but then the towel where he hung the door is on the backside. So I had to physically get out to get to the towel, but I was wet. So now I had to take a step out and my foot's wet on the floor. And so, but I realized that when my foot was wet on the floor, there was a little tiny crack in the bottom of the glass. So the water from the shower was actually going on the floor. So the floor was wet. So I'm like,
I don't like where this is going.
I'm like, this is an awful experience. It looks good. It was just terrible. And then there was something with the door. When I closed the door, I couldn't open the shower door because it was something that blocked it. So I was like, this is an ergonomic nightmare. So anyway, I go down to the front desk and I say, hey, listen, I'm not looking for like a free night. I don't want a refund. I just have a question for you guys. And there were 3 people standing there. There were 3 like, you know, people that were like at the computers. And then there was 2 people at the computers, and there were behind them was the supervisor. And I said to him, hey, have any of you guys stayed here?
What a great question.
Have any of you guys slept in one of the rooms? Well, first of all, I said, how long have you been here? One was like 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. The manager's been here 3 years. I said, anybody actually used the room? And they're like, what? Nobody's ever asked us this question. I said, and they said, no. All 3 of them have never stayed in the room.
Wow.
And I said, this is an ergonomic nightmare. And I'm going to explain like how like the bathroom is just set up wrong. It's not like conducive for a good experience. And they were like, I'm so sorry, you know, we'll fix it. Do you want to? I said, listen, I don't want a refund. I'm just telling you, this is a mess. And I started doing stuff like this similar to across all other different services that I've been involved with. But what I found out is that this is a perfect case of like, if you're an organizational leader and you're not getting your own emails that you send out for a donor, like, you know, to give, and you're not experiencing it from a website perspective, you're not actually talking to your donors, your first time guests, what they experience, you're missing it. You don't know what's going on. If you're leading from the top and not experiencing your own brand, you are missing the experience. They're not saying thank you. They're voting with their feet and they're leaving.
That's exactly right. And then that's what's so dangerous there is you assume everything's fine.
Yeah.
But if you don't bother to listen and listen to somebody other than yourself or your ego or whatever,
you're not experiencing it. I remember too when social media first came on board. You and I lived before social media. That's how old we are now, Steve. And I remember.
Thanks for that.
I remember when, because I remember doing the marketing for 25 years, and I experienced this revolution of like, wow, social media, what's that going to do to consumer behavior?
Oh, man.
And I remember getting access to the owner or the P or the VP or the EVP, the executive vice president, was really hard. Like you couldn't like talk to these people. They were gone. Like you just don't talk to them. And I remember social media now gives the power to everybody experiencing the brand. I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to expose a lot of people and what's not being done. And this whole idea of being a friend and clicking and like, are these truly friends and likes, and like the power of the like now is unreal. Like it's real power. And the audience and influencers is an all-time high because I think the influencer podcast space is delivering what people want. Whereas your legacy media now is not. And so
the legacy media delivers what it wants.
What it wants. That's exactly it. And it's just trying to shove it down our throats and our minds and our perceptions and all that. And so now the podcast revolution's here because they're listening to the audience, and the audience is responding, and the audience is wanting more. So they're giving more. And here, legacy media, it's going to be interesting next couple of years to see how Fox, NBC, ABC, how they all adapt.
Because they have to.
Yeah.
You can adapt or you can die. Take your pick. But you gotta understand the audience.
Let's power this thing down. I want to hear from you. You are on top of the market of everything that's going on with Noble U. What's in Steve's spirit right now? Like what is crippling our country? What's doing well? Like I know you've got it right there. Let's hear it.
That's such a huge question. You ask somebody like me that question, and you're powering up. You're not powering down, you bozo. It's such a nerd move. Listen, if you're a Christian listening to this right now, and you've been even a decent student of Scripture, there's what's going on in the news. There's what's going on with the Trump presidency. There's what's going on with Mom Donnie, the Democratic Socialist, who will be the next mayor of New York City, most likely. There's all that stuff going on, and the ups and downs of the economy, and the ups and downs of what's going on with China and Russia and Ukraine and Hamas and Israel. And we forget, us Christians sometimes forget, Dave, that there is another story on top of all of that. There is a narrative that you can know: creation, fall, redemption, ultimately restoration. So I don't, and for a Christian looking at the situation in the world, in America, whatever the case may be, at any year, under any leadership, that there is another story at play. The Scripture says, Jesus was talking about, when he comes back, it'll be as in the days of Noah, when men's thoughts are evil continuously. Wars and rumors of wars. The overall, if you're watching this as opposed to listening to it, I'm doing like a bar graph or just a graph, and I'm doing with my hand the downward slope. That is the downward slope of history, and you can't change that. And then Jesus comes back, and then you get a spike going north, and he fixes everything. Okay, then you usher in the kingdom. And that's cool. So on the way down, I don't expect the world to get better. I know it's going to get worse. So again, if you're watching, as you go down this line, which I already know that narrative, if you studied Scripture, you know that's where the world is going until Jesus comes back. There are ups and downs. It's almost like a heartbeat monitor. up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, and it's going up and down while the overall line's going down. There's ups and downs, man. I want to be a part of the ups. I want to be a part of the ups. So I'm a pro-life person. I've been a pro-life person for years. Oh, Steve of Little Faith, I actually never thought I'd see the day. You caught that? Good. I never thought I'd see the day when Roe versus Wade would get overturned. Wow. But I've been involved in the pro-life movement for 20 years. I talked about it incessantly on the radio show. This Saturday, I'm taking a bunch of students to a Love Life event. We'll be praying across the street from an abortion clinic. But I stayed true to the cause. And then eventually you see Roe versus Wade get overturned. And I'm like, that's an up. There's an up there. I was a part of the up. And what's the next up? In the educational space, which is why I left radio, because I believe reaching teenagers today is more important than preaching to the choir to people like us. There's plenty of people talking to people like us, and we're older, we're in the last half of our lives or whatever. But these teenagers, there's not a lot of people reaching them effectively. And we grew up in the homeschool space, meaning the Noble family. All 4 of our kids were homeschooled. I've taught about 1,800 homeschoolers in the last 10 years now. And I know they're not being prepared. I see it every day in every classroom. They're not being prepared. We're running them through the system, but we're not training up people that love the Lord and love their neighbor and are ready to engage and make a difference. Not for the Trump presidency, not for the Republican Party, but for the kingdom. So I'm like, I'm going to be 60 in February. I don't know how many years I have left, but I want to live a life of impact. And so my question, but to your point of the show today, is if these students and their families are my customer, what do they need? What do they want? They want to see kids who are growing up in this social media world that live a different kind of life, that look at people on the other side of the aisle, that look at the LGBTQ community, that look at illegal immigrants, that look at Trump or look at Pelosi or look at Schumer through a Christian lens first, as opposed to an American lens or a political lens. And how do you live in a world where the overall trend line is down, where most people actually don't even know the Lord in a saving way? How do you live in that world, love people well, serve them well, make a difference for the kingdom? And that's what drives me. People will ask me at homeschool conventions when I'm out in the spring speaking at homeschool conventions, because a lot of their kids are younger. They'll be like, Steve, how much longer are you going to teach? I really want my kids to take all 4 of your classes. How much longer are you going to teach? I said, and I tell them, I'll teach until God stops me, until he kills me. I'm going to will somebody listen to a 70-year-old man in a Star Wars t-shirt? I think they will. So I'm not living my life based on, it's funny, nerd alert. I'm not living my life based on what the world is doing. I'm living on my life based on what God is doing.
Yeah.
And so I'm not as wrapped up in the news as I used to be. I'm a lot more joyful today than I was 3 years ago when I'm carrying a box of rocks on my shoulder every day because I'm talking about the news cycle. Incessantly. I wake up, I go to bed. I'm people like, how do you do show prep? I'm like, I'm doing show prep all the time. I'm constantly consuming the news and what's going on in the world. And I'll tell you what, when you live like that, Dave, you're not going to be a very pleasant person. You're going to sell your joy down the river for a bowl of stew like Esau did.
Well, I mean, I know you through those years, and I think you did a pretty good job of it, honestly. Like, it may have been inside, but I didn't see it outside. Like, I always felt the joy of the Lord on you and the passion to communicate to the world of how awesome Christianity is. But let me ask you this, man. Like, when you think about the problem of our youth, and I don't want to dwell on this too much, but like, who dropped the ball? Our generation? Us?
Okay, so I'm going to try to do this quick because I know we can't be on all night recording until Jesus comes back. My dad was 14 when Pearl Harbor happened, so he was a member of the Greatest Generation. The Greatest Generation comes back from World War II and they're quiet because they're all messed up. We didn't even know what PTSD was back then. Then you go from that generation, the quiet generation, the Greatest Generation. Then you go into the consumer generation. Then you go into the 60s. And then out of the 60s, you get the baby boomers. That's Clinton. And then you get it's self-obsession. And then we see all the problems with that in the 80s and the 90s. And then parents become that's when we get helicopter parenting and lawnmower parenting, and we're trying to do everything we can to make our kids' lives easier. And that's the problem. When you're trying to make your kids' lives easier, you're not exposing them to reality, and they're growing up in the opposite.
In a vacuum, in a
they're
bubble.
growing up in a vacuum, in a bubble.
Yeah.
And we protect them and we shelter them, and we don't want them to experience pain. And so you do everything you can for them, and they end up becoming handicapped. They don't know how to deal with the real world because mom and dad have provided so many things. Because I'm like, hey, my dad supported me, but he wasn't really effusive about it. So I'm going to be really effusive in my support of my kids, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure they're successful. Well, guess what? I'm putting my shoulder to their plow way too often, and they don't grow any muscles and learn how to plow on their own.
I want to ask my kids if I did that.
Then they can't
I feel like I
reality.
did that, Steve. I think
so
I did
now
that.
They all have anxiety. Yeah, but the other thing, I'm looking at you on my phone. Otherwise, I'd hold my phone up right now. But you were talking about that. So phones, just the internet, social media, YouTube, everything, all of it. We've got they're the loneliest generation. They're the most anxious generation. Suicidal ideation, mental health crises amongst young girls and boys is skyrocketing because we've raised them in this weird little bubble and haven't given them the tools enough. Because I think for us, Dave, we didn't really realize what the power of the internet was going to be like. And so, I'm raising my kids up in church, and they go to Sunday school and they go to youth group, and I'm a Christian talk radio show host, for goodness sake. And so my kids, they're going to catch it. And what I didn't do is I didn't teach them deliberately enough. So now in a classroom, I share this at homeschool conventions and even in the classroom, where I thought the power of my own witness was enough to train up my kids because I'm doing all this Christian stuff. But I never really, to your point, you know what I did, Dave? If one of the four noble kids wanted to be heard, to our point today in this podcast, they didn't go to dad. They went to mom. Mom listened. Dad preached. Mom was the effective marketer, and dad's just bowling them over with my marketing material, but mom's actually listening. And so dad, who would have been the most effective teacher, wasn't teaching.
He's preaching.
Just talking. Just preaching.
Dude, that's powerful.
I'm not listening.
Wow.
Now, God is kind, and our kids have been on, some of them have been on tougher journeys than others. It's been really difficult. But God is kind, and God is patient, and I know He's gonna work this thing out in my kids' lives. But now in the classroom, I'm like, okay, now God's given me the opportunity. And this makes me emotional every time I talk about it. I feel like in the classroom, Dave, at this point, God's given me back some of the years that the Bible says, the years that the locust ate. Except in this case, it's worse because I actually think I fed those years to the locusts myself.
Oh my gosh.
And so now I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen to my parents. I'm going to listen to these students, and I'm going to meet you where you're at. Because I think I know what you want, but I need to hear it from you so that I can meet you in your way, in your language, where you're at. I suppose you want to get frustrated, expect a 16-year-old to meet a 59-year-old, pretty mature Christian, pretty knowledgeable, well-educated Christian. They can't meet me where I'm at, Dave.
Right.
I have to meet them where they're at.
Yes.
And now I see the fruit of it. Sometimes in the classroom, sometimes a year later, sometimes in a note at the end of the semester or a card at the end of the school year. And I'm like, God is so kind that I'm giving them what I know they need in the language that they told me they needed in. So it's not about, come listen to Steve Noble, he'll blow your kid away. No, I'm going to meet your kid where they're at. And I'm going to walk alongside them in a journey. And I'm going to stop preaching and I'm going to start listening. Because I care about you as an individual. And all my students pick up on that. I'm authentic. They know I care. And I remind them in the classroom, I'm like, you guys, you do know I don't have to be here today. I could be doing something else. I'm here because I love you.
That's awesome.
I love the Lord and I love you.
And
so I'm walking with you. It's really not about me. It's about you guys. It's about you. It's not about me.
Dude, I appreciate you going there, man. That is powerful. Let me ask this last question. We'll get out of here. But do you think COVID amplified that? The idea of what you're talking? Yeah. So
because we didn't have authentic community, then we isolated ourselves.
Then we isolated. It's made it worse.
Made it worse. What does the devil do? The devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the devil's playground right there. COVID.
Provide confusion. Have you ever looked up the devil's logo? It's arrows in every direction.
Get your eye on everything but
him. That's
but
it.
him.
But him.
Yeah. Powerful.
Man, there's so much more we could talk about. I just want to tell you I love you, man. Thanks for joining me on this journey. And
it's an honor.
Yeah. I love you, man.
It's an honor.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Hi, pal. Thanks.
Join us again next week